Is college really the best way to learn in 2021? And is it even necessary? Stay tuned because in a minute, we're going to talk about that and a lot more in a lot of detail. Hey, what's up? I'm Dave Lisowski. I'm the host of How to Win with Video. And in today's episode, I'm joined by my friend Thien, who is another small business owner, a video business owner. And we talk about college. Thien and I have a lot of similar views and opinions on college, the education system, but the differences and the perspectives that we bring to the table here are that Thien dropped out and I graduated. We're going to get to that in a minute, but the common ground here is that we're both now video business owners and both of us kind of feel like college didn't serve us for what we wanted to do with our lives. In fact, I think part of the reason that it's so easy to talk with him about all of this is because we have such a mutual love and respect for YouTube, because that's where we've learned so much of the foundations of what we know now. Some of the things you're going to hear us talk about in this conversation are when dropping out actually makes sense, whether or not you should have a plan B, the many flaws with the education system, what is the ROI of college debt, using what time you have efficiently, the importance of structure in creative entrepreneurship, and of course, some awesome, useful conversation about YouTube, including Thien's top 3 tips for starting a new YouTube channel, how to increase your watch time, and how to really make the YouTube algorithm happy. We're going to jump right into it with Thien talking about his strong opinions that he has on college. Here we go.
I have like such strong opinions about college and education as a whole. Like I really have my own mentality when it comes to that. And people always like ask me questions about college, and like it's hard to explain because they're not really in the same like state of mind. Could you say like that? But like I feel like you and I like understand each other. So like this could be a very cool conversation. So I'm very excited for it.
I anticipate it, man. I mean, so I have your YouTube pulled up right over here. And your pinned video here, or your channel trailer here, is I dropped out of college 1 year ago. Was it worth it? Now I've watched this video, and I recommend anyone watching to go check it out. But we'll discuss it right here too. Was it worth it? I know you're in there. You're like, don't just drop out because I said so. Like, make sure it's, you consider all these different things. So we'll start off with that. Was it worth it, man, looking back?
Because for my own life, that's like dropping out of college was the best decision in my entire life. For my own life, for my own situation, in my situation, it was 100% and 1,000% worth it. It's been the best decision of my life. But I do encourage people to not drop out because like you have like there are so many different contexts. Like it really depends on the situation of the person. But for my life, yes, it was 100% worth it.
Well, how long has it been now since you put that video out? So it says 7 months, but like I don't know if there's in between time. Has it been fully 2 years yet since you've been like done out of college, or are we kind of approaching that mark?
We are approaching that mark in August. This August, right now we are in May. In August, it's going to be 2 years. I'm super excited about it. Like, because I remember making this video. This was the only I remember when I filmed this video, I had like a ton of YouTube videos done at that time, and that one was the less scripted one because it felt the most natural to me, and it felt like it really talked to me. So yes, it's been 7 months that I've made that video, and it's also almost 2 years right now in a few months coming up.
So since you've made that video, how have things changed? Like, how have your views maybe on dropping out changed, or have things gotten better? Are they far along enough like where you expected them to be? How has the plane shifted a little bit?
That's such a good question.
That's what honestly, I'm here
for. Honestly, things have like my mentality stayed the same. My mentality ever since I dropped out stayed the same, but my reality is a lot further than I thought it would be when I dropped out. So when I dropped out 1.5 years ago, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I had a plan B. I already know like what's gonna happen, but I never knew the degree at like at which like things are gonna happen. I knew my base was gonna be fine, but I didn't really know like where my top would be. And right now I'm still climbing on the top, and I overexceeded expectations so far.
Dude, what more could you ask for, honestly? You know, like
Heck yes.
That's what you always hope to hear, is just like, yeah, no, I just kind of went into it, dove into the deep end of the pool, and not only did I learn how to swim, I'm also like getting medals for how well I learned how to swim in the deep end. Like,
heck yes.
That's I love hearing that, because it's just it's so easy to hear the horror stories. Like, no, I didn't really have a game plan, and then things kind of just like really did not work out for a while.
I actually have like pretty like good opinions about like that specific situation, because like, have you dropped out? Like, did you drop out? Like, what's the situation?
I took time off from college and then came back and finished. But we'll get into that, because like I use basically nothing from college, so that's a whole different type of angle that we'll loop in on. But I want to hear your opinion and thought on that other part first.
Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about
That's why I almost like didn't phrase it that way. I was like, let's see if he actually remembers. It was people kind of like dropping out without a solid game plan, and then things not really working out the same exact way.
Because man, I have strong opinions about this.
Yo, dude, that's what we're here for.
I always tell people that if they don't know what they want to do in life, stay in school. That's what I always tell people. Is I'm not like a big fan of like people dropping out when they don't have when they don't really have a plan, because dropping out is such a huge decision, because you've been in school, in education your entire life. And when you drop out of it, you feel lost. Like, if you're not disciplined, if you don't really know what you want to do, or if you don't have a plan B, you're going to be lost. Like, you're going to stand there not knowing what to do, and you're not going to really advance, or like you're not going to be educated while everyone else is getting educated, and like you're falling behind somewhat. So it's basically like it looks a little bit like inflation. While the prices rise, if you're not raising your price, like if you're not raising your prices, like getting more, you're basically losing long term. Yeah. So I see it like that. And like, if you don't have a plan B, please, like, in my opinion, if you don't have a plan B, please don't drop out. Like, it's such a huge loss for a little gain if you don't have a plan B. For me, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Like, you really, really do need to have a plan B.
Yeah. So my whole thing with the way that, at least in the US, I know you're up in Canada, I feel like a lot of things might be similar. The whole education system is set up to prep you for college all the way through. Not even necessarily like figure out exactly what you want to do in life. There's elements of that, but nobody can really, guide you fully on what you want to do. It's kind of individual basis. But the whole thing is like, all right, get prepped so that you can be the most eligible candidate to wherever you want to apply to. And then, you get there and it's like, all right, cool, I'm here. And then you might quickly find out, like, wait, this isn't what I wanted to do. Like, that was the case for me, at least. And I know I'm not alone in that, where I was like, I'm going to go be an engineer. No, I wasn't. I was not going to be an engineer.
People get so lost when it comes to that situation. Like there's a whole lot of people who live that same situation as you.
Well, that's the thing, dude. It's like, sometimes I did know what I wanted to pursue when I took my time away from college. However, I talked about this, or I touched on this in a recent video too, where it's like, there needs to be more knowledge about other options to people, because college is not a perfect system. And I agree with you in that it's like, put yourself in that situation, because you're elevating yourself. You're elevating knowledge, network, all those different things, and you're gonna be more inclined to figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you need to go into debt for the rest of your life to do that, or are there other options?
That's the thing, because like, that's the difference between US and Canada, because here we barely have to pay for education. that's like we're so lucky when it comes to that. Like I am very, very, very lucky when it comes to that. And US college students, like I really understand why a lot of them could consider dropping out, because there's a lot of debt, and you have to think about that. Like, is the ROI? I know like it's a business term, but is the ROI of your debt like worth it? Like, is the ROI of your college diploma worth it for the debt that you have?
Yeah.
And that's what like you have to think about more. And in my case, like in Canada, like it's been a very easy decision, because it felt like college was a given, because it's pretty much free here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I totally understand like why in the US, like college students really consider that.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's also like you said, that ROI aspect. There's an imbalance where a lot of the careers that you can go for that are like super noble, super like a lot of work, a lot of very specific schooling, they don't pay that much, or they don't pay nearly as much as like other degrees. And it's almost just like, what is the incentive for people to go and do this? And I know for a lot of people, it's like, it's what they're passionate about, you know, like helping people, or like, you know, like more of like a social work type of situation. And that's not to take anything away from that. I'm saying it's like, why isn't the barrier to entry in terms of money like lower, or why aren't those people being paid more? I don't have answers. I'm not going to systematically be able to change things. I'm just observing and being like, something's wrong here.
It's like, I actually have a problem with that also, because I don't have anything against college. I don't have anything against universities. I don't have anything against the education system, but I have something against the perceived value of what we give to it. So let's say like parents and like teachers and stuff, like not necessarily all teachers, not necessarily all parents, obviously, but we are fed like ever since we were kids, the fact that like you go to college and you get a job right after, and then like, depending on what job you take, like you get a lot of money or not. Like if you become a doctor, for example, or a lawyer, but like money, or like your salary, like what money you get, what revenue you get, the ROI you get out of college is all based on like the amount of value that you're able to give to society. And college, for me, like I see it this way, college is a means to get educated, to get to that point where you could give this much value to society, and then society is going to pay you for this much value. So that's how I see it. Like college is really, it's not like the end goal. I see it as a way to get to the end goal where you need to give value to the world. And that's what I think, like, that's like one of my opinions, but like man. I feel like how we perceive it is totally different.
Yeah, it's there. You're right. It's almost like in a perfect world, that would be the case. It's like, what you're doing for society is what you're rewarded for. And there's a scale and it's balanced and everything, you know? But then, you know, that's totally not how it is. You know, you see like the imbalance just between what people are doing and how much they're getting paid to do things, or like people in business who own businesses. And then that's a whole nother conversation too. And like, that's kind of where it's difficult for me, because I very much love the like, go after it. Like if you want to make something happen, like you can go do it. It's almost like manifest destiny, but like not as hardcore, you know? It's go get after it, make your own future type of thing.
Yes.
And it's like, you shouldn't have a ceiling for yourself. It's like, if you want to go and be like a business mogul, it's like, you know what, more power to you. There's going to be a lot of work involved. Go get after it if that's what you really want.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's like, okay, they're making crazy, crazy money. A lot of people will hate them just for that exact reason, without being like, there's a lot of work that went into that also. There's a lot of things that lined up and effort that went in that like it's now paying off for them. But a lot of the time, maybe that's not college. Maybe the effort that they put in and the path that they went wasn't a traditional, like, I went to college and learned these things type of way. So then it's like, where does the value balance come in there?
Oh yeah. Cause I see it this way. Cause yeah, that's such a good, that's so good. Like the way you talk and the way you said it is very, very good. I see college this way. This is something I explained in my video. It's like, you when, like, let's say you don't really, like, if you don't know what your end goal is, like, stay in college. That's my advice. But if you do know what you want to do, look at where you want to go, look at where you are, and look at the best path to get to there. If it's not college, don't go to college. But college, like, I think it's Einstein who said this. Like, I'm not even sure. Don't quote me on this, but like, it's
you heard it here first. Yeah, everybody. This is the exact quote from the exact person. Yeah.
I'm not gonna let let schooling be in the way of my education. It's like when you think of it, it's all about education. The number one thing you need to do is get educated. And if school is the best way to get to that, fine. If YouTube is the best way to get to that, fine. If university is the best way to get to that, fine. If buying online courses is the best way to get to that, fine. But look at your end goal and look at how you want to be educated. Let's say like school is just another form of those types of education. And the way I see it is school is just like a bird nest. Is it called a bird nest? Bird cage? No, bird cage, I think. Yeah, okay. It's just like a cage in which like birds are in.
Yeah, bird cage.
Bird cage. I see school as a bird cage.
Yeah.
Every student is a bird, but before getting to this cage, they accepted to go into this cage. Like when you sign up to the school, like you sign up to like the terms and conditions of the school in which they give you homework. And when they give you like you have to study this and this and this. And now it comes to like the best ROI. Like, is it the best ROI for this? And when you go to school, let's say you go to school, let's say 9 to 5. Let's just like work. Let's say you go to school 9 to 5. Is this the best way you can spend your 9 to 5? Being fed by this one ideology or one way of thinking or one way to get educated? Or is it better? And this is when I started to rethink everything. Is this the best way? Like the only one way? Like pretty much you can see it as one source of income. When you get educated at school, I see it as one source of income. Do you want that? Or you want several sources of income? And do not let this 9 to 5 take most of your time. Like it's I don't know the perfect name for it, but like the 80-20 principle. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
It's like 80% of your time is made for 20% of the results and etc. Yeah. And like school takes 80% of your time for how much percentage?
Yeah.
So the way I see it is instead of giving it to this one cage, I give myself to a lot of cages where the owners feed me information they want, but I allow myself to have several sources of income when it comes to education. That's the way I see it. And that's the way like college for me is just another cage in which you accept the person to be responsible for you, to give you all of that work for you to grow and to be educated.
Dude, I've never heard it put that way. And that's such a cool, unique perspective on it, because it's like, you're right. You're kind of accepting the system that you're being put into right there. And you're willingly going into it. You know, it's like, ultimately you have the choice of, do you want to go in or do you not? And it's, you know, when you really tied it up there and you were like, yeah, I'm getting fed by all these different systems, by all these people. It's such a good way to put it, because it's, you know, where you choose to spend your time and where you choose to put yourself in and your effort and energy. You got to know that what you're getting out of it is something that makes sense to you.
Yeah, because like you have 24 hours in a day. Every single person on earth has 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day. I have 24 hours in a day. Bill Gates has 24 hours in a day. Elon Musk also. You decide what you want to do with your time. And if college is the best way to get to where you want to be with that use of time, go for it. It's totally fine. But if you think like, if that is not helping you get to the way you want to be educated, change it. Don't waste like 80% of your day on one thing that also asks you to do stuff outside of it. Let's say homework, like forced homework outside of school. That's basically your entire day. If you consider like the flow zone, getting out of the flow zone, getting into the flow zone, it basically takes your entire day.
Yeah.
When you go to college, it's full time. It takes your entire day. Is this the best use of your time? That's like one question I always ask people when they consider dropping out.
Yeah.
Or being in college.
Well, it's also like, is that, it's exactly what you said. Like, is that where you want to spend your time? But also, is that what's going to interest you the most? Like, are you going to be interested enough to actually learn the lessons? Because a lot of the time the projects or homework that you're getting in these different college courses are like, it's to help you develop like a portfolio. And again, it's dependent on what your major is, obviously. If you're going to be like a nurse or a doctor or an engineer, go to college.
Yeah, please go.
I think people know that there's a certain segment of people we're talking about here, but it's like a lot of these projects are like, oh, you'll be able to add this to your portfolio, or like there's a lesson to be learned here. It's like, yeah, but it's from something controlled and from something that's not real. Like my favorite projects or my favorite things from college were the ones that were like rooted in something in the real world, or there was a discussion about like a really specific, like a case study or something. And then they like changed the names of the business. So we had to like actually figure it out. And we knew what the real end result was, like stuff like that. Where I'm like, okay, this is useful. This is something that like I can actually like apply, or I can go out into the world. Like I think internships are something that aren't stressed enough, like in certain situations, because it's literally like, hey, go and do it. Go and do exactly what you want to do. But I mean, there's a whole slew of benefits and issues and all those types of things. But like, what I want to ask you is, what was the single biggest redeeming thing from college for you? Like when you were deciding, I think I'm going to drop out, what was the biggest thing that was pulling you back?
Pulling you back, meaning like, what's the biggest like takeaway?
What was the biggest draw that college still had that made you think maybe I won't drop out?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. Let me think about it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's such a good question. Honestly, like number one, like aside from the fact that like I'm in a pretty strict family, I'm not gonna talk about that, but it would be it's such a I'm scared like to say my strong opinion, but it's like geez. Do I want to stay lazy or not? That's the way I saw it. I see it like, because ever since I dropped out, I've considered going back to college several times, especially during COVID. Like I caught COVID back in November, like a few months ago. And I think that there's a depression side of like in the side effects, like there's depression, I think. And then that part, like in November, like I really, really considered going back to school, and I felt super lazy. I didn't really want to like, and obviously like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say like college students and like students in general are lazy, but I mean like it's a lot simpler. It's a lot more straightforward, and you don't really have to do anything really aside from like studying and like what people, like what these owners of the cage give you and feed you. Right. So I see like, do I want to suck it up and live the real world experience and learn things by myself and struggle in having to stay disciplined by myself? Or do I want to stay a lot more lazy and have someone to force me to do these things? That's what kept me in school. But I was like, you know what? I know I'm disciplined. I know this life has a lot more to give me. And I know that I can be a lot more educated, but I need to suck it up and just go for it.
It was the structure.
By your own wings.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good way to put it. Is like, and that's when you were first touching on it. That was the first thing I thought was like, it's the structure of college. That's the benefit there. Is like that's the benefit for people who don't know exactly what they want to do yet. Is you get plugged into a system, you know, and you go through it.
Because like the system is so well made for like the general public, because like there's so many people out there, and obviously, and I don't blame them for it because it's totally normal. Let's say let's say you have an ice cream shop. Okay. I always talk about this. Let's say you have an ice cream shop and then you wanted to specialize in people who love avocado. Your specialty, the specialty for your ice cream shop is going to be avocado. But if you want to be super popular amongst everyone else, go vanilla or chocolate. You know, I see school as like the vanilla and chocolate option. And that is totally normal because like there's a ton of people who are there and you cannot really adapt to every single one of them. So you better give the education that is more vanilla and chocolate, like to fit everyone. And like that's a very, very good structure, I think, for most people, because a lot of people, because one of the biggest, how do you say it? Like one thing that I know a lot of students really lack, some are really, really good with that, is like discipline and like disciplining themselves. Because like college, like you're still like you're still super young, you want to go out and stuff, so you're a lot less disciplined. So like I believe the structure is very, very well made for those people.
Yeah, agreed. It's, you figure, like you said, you're plugging masses of people, a whole generation coming up into one kind of universal system to be like, what's going to work best here? So of course you want it to appeal to as many people as possible. And that's why, like, there's gen eds and, like, here's the things that you should learn, like, before you hop into a specific major, which I've got a whole issue with that too, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole because I'm not educated enough to speak on how to fix it. So I'd just be complaining at that point. But I do want to touch on that structure aspect, because that's something that lacks for a lot of people that are moving into, we'll call it creative entrepreneurship instead of, it's kind of the word I've been throwing around lately, where it's like, you're not maybe just starting a business, because you can go and start a business. I'm not saying that's easy in any regard, but I feel like the stakes are higher, and maybe it's just more difficult to plant a flag and say, here is my creative based business. Here's what we're worth, pay us money, and I'm going to make a living doing this. So for the people who are like photographers, videographers, graphic designers, something that is rooted in art but applies to businesses, there's not a whole lot of structure out there to say, here's how you get started and here's how you actually start making money doing this and supporting a lifestyle. And so I felt like when I finished college, so I went to Penn State, not main campus, not the fun one where everybody parties. I went to I commuted to school. I'll probably get some people saying, "Oh, you just hate college because you didn't get to party." Yeah. I went there and I graduated with a degree in corporate communication. So it was like, let's throw marketing, business, and communication kind of into one degree. And after I finished that, I had already been running Foxhole part-time by that point. I had decided to go full-time. So I felt like I was figuring things out all over again. So not only did I go through the structure of college, I also now, like afterward, whereas most people would try and just plug into the system, I was kind of like, that was sick. Let's go jump in the deep end again and try and figure out how to swim all over again by doing video. And there's like, to loop back, I wish there were more knowledge out there about the structures available for people that are looking to do that. That's kind of the mission that I'm on now, is there are systems that supply structure, but nobody tells you that when you're graduating high school. Why not?
Yes. Why not? I love that. I also have a question, like a follow-up question, like when we talked about that.
Yeah.
Would you, if you know what you know now about your college experience and like how it's not really applying to the real world, like for David Lisowski's real world experience, would you have dropped out if you knew what you knew right now?
No. And the only reason is because I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have gone down the path that led me here. And the experiences that I've had along the way, while there are ups and downs, I would not change it. I wish I could get rid of the downs, but that means I would get rid of the ups too. And I've had some of the best experiences and I've met some of the best people along the way.
That's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, dude, I don't think, and this is just coming from my perspective, and I'd be foolish to think that, other people would feel this all the same way. But like, I'm not a fan of regretting things that I did, or like changing the choices I made to try and further my life and career.
Same
Because
thing
even
here.
if they didn't work out, they got me to this point, you know?
I love that. Same thing here. I actually have like the same mentality. I every single thing I think I might regret, I don't regret, because if it didn't really happen, like I wouldn't be here. And obviously it's so cheesy to say it. It's like those cheesy posts. I know like you talked about like those cheesy posts, but it's like either you win or you learn, you know? So you learn to go where you want, like, you know, for the next time where you want to go.
Yeah. That's a good, I mean, honestly, dude, like it's so simple when you just say it like that. I feel like a lot of people will hear something like that. Like, you either win or learn. And so many people are used to seeing that on like a motivational post, and they're already jaded because they're like, oh, this is just like, you know, someone's trying to be like Gary Vee or something like that. It's like, just look at the information here or what's being said, and it makes sense. You know, I'm guilty. I see certain people sometimes making like the motivational posts, and I'm like, oh, come on, what are you doing here? But when you really boil it down and just like throw out the bad taste in your mouth for whatever reason, everything makes sense. You know, like there's a lot of good information and good advice out there in the world if you just like filter it out, or filter it in rather. Heck
yes.
Yeah.
I have another question for you.
Do it. This is nice, man. I'm on the other end of it for once.
What would you change about college? Like if it was a perfect world for you, what would you change about it?
For me, or for in general?
In general.
Okay. I would, without speaking on like systematic changes that I wouldn't know how to go about. Cause like, I'm not going to be like, make college free, because I don't know all the back end that's going to go and how to make that happen.
Yeah. There's so many stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot. I would say drop the requirement for like bullshit gen ed courses. And I feel strongly about that, because I remember, I think at Penn State, credits were like a few $100 per credit. So maybe, I think if you weren't going full time, it was like $500 per credit, and most courses were 3 credits. So you figure like $1,500 a course for the semester. Yeah, shit sucks.
yeah, that's kind of expensive. Man.
Yeah. It was cheaper if you were going full time, and most of the time was going full time, but there were like 1 or 2 semesters, because of the way that I took time off and came back, where it wasn't. And I remember having to take, for my corporate communication degree, I had to take like a certain number of health and physical education credits. I went to the gym during college, but I still had to take, and I had choices, but I ended up taking ballroom dance and tennis. Ooh. So I had to pay, we'll be generous and call it $2,000. We'll say I had to take $2,000 to take those courses so that I could graduate with a business degree, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
And that sits so wrong with me, man. What does that contribute to like anything that I'm going to take into the real world? It's just like, it's just baked in. And there were some other courses I took that I think were total BS too. But like that stands out to me as like, that makes me think that the US college system is like a cash grab in a lot of cases. You know, I'm like, this isn't necessity. We don't need this. It's like, yes, I know we're trying to promote health and promote movement, but like at whose expense?
Exactly. Oh, I love so much how you say it. It's like, and also like that $2,000. How would you rather keep that $2,000 and like invest it somewhere else? Like, let's say you could use that $2,000 to get another course. What would it be like?
Let's put it this way. $2,000 is what I spent on the first like sales training and video business program that I got into like after college. And that is the basis and foundation of everything that I have done with my business. Whereas with college, I had some cool experiences and learned some like interesting lessons, but like none of that applies. So $2,000 for tennis and ballroom dancing, or $2,000 for like what jump started my entire career and lifestyle? You tell me.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you so much because I remember because every time I talk about college and school in general, I always say like there's so many courses that are useless in a way. Like they're not really useless, but it's like basically spending 80% of your time for 20% of results, like in the real world. Like you barely, of course you get results and like, of course you're going to use it in your real life, but it's so small compared to what you could gain from something else. And I know a lot of people always say like, well, I mean, like those are also important, you know, like, of course it's super important to learn about like like how to write better and stuff. It's like, I have strong opinions also like about like French classes here in Canada, in Montreal. So like for you, it's like English classes here. Like we go so advanced. Like, let's say like you have to like learn how to write a poem and stuff. Like, of course it's interesting. And of course you might use it, but like, I don't know how much, like 1% of the population uses it like daily and stuff, like uses it frequently. So you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours and spending money on that to basically have a 1% chance of using it in your daily life. And obviously, like, is that going to help you in your life? Like get more money, for example? Like, no. Is that important? Of course it's important. A lot of things are important. Can I get a class on how to build a speaker? Like that's important, you know, but is it going to apply to most people? Not necessarily. It's like right. In our cases, like in Montreal, like we have French classes where we read so much and like we have to read super complex words and stuff. And of course, like that's very interesting. Like, of course, like, you know, the culture and stuff, but is it actually going to apply to your real world? When you think about it, no. Yeah. Like it's such, you lose so much time. It's always like the 80-20 principle. Like you lose so much time for so little like ROI from it.
Well, the thing is too, it's like when information is, when you're in the cage and it's being, you know, fed to you, certain times it's like, I'm not as interested in this now just because it's being forced onto me. There's certain things where it's like, if I made the choice to go and like read this myself or like figure this out myself, it might be a lot more appealing to me. But the fact that it's like, this is required of you now. I think that's just people's rebellious nature by nature is like a lot of time maybe it's a split of the population, but a lot of people, it's like, you're making me do this. I don't know that I want to do it as much, you know? And so, you know, it's that too. And like, when you said about like English classes here and French classes there, I remember specifically I had an advanced business writing course or like, I think it was advanced business writing. It was like how to write emails the right way and all this different type of stuff. So outdated, man. They like the way that they prep you and then send you into the real world. If you're typing out like an email in the way that they tell you there, you're going to get like a 1-word answer back because that's how the real world is. Yeah. It's like, or if you get an answer, people want something quick and not so uptight every single time. It's like, don't get me wrong. There's levels to it, but like, we're not all like sitting there in a tuxedo, like typing things, being so formal, you know, but there's a disconnect. And, you know, maybe I can't speak on every single college in the world, but you know, it seems based on my experiences and conversations that's kind of a recurring theme. So that's also something like I have strong opinions about and honestly, I don't really blame like the school system and I don't really blame teachers because technology evolves so fast. Like 10 years ago, Apple wasn't as big as right now. And let's say even Tesla, like Elon Musk like a big star 10 years ago? Not at this rate, you know? Yeah. And things are moving so fast and people are learning so fast that it's so hard, obviously, for teachers and school systems like to adapt to that. And I don't really blame them, but it's just like unfortunate for everyone. Yeah. It's basically unfortunate for everyone because everyone's learning so fast. And now it's a time that I like to rethink about like, is like if college is not as fast to adapt, like, is this the best option for me? Or are there other options for me? Dude, I love the way that you loop that back. Because it really does. We could have like kept attacking that. And again, there's so many different points, but at that point, if I bring them up without a solution, it's like, I'm just complaining. So I like that you said it's like, yes, that's how it all comes back. What I wanna bring up now is like, you obviously run a video business or a video agency. Like, what was your switch like after stepping out of college and choosing to drop out and then pursuing that? Like, paint the picture for me a little bit in that early period of time where you made that switch.
I've had so many breakthroughs, like a lot of breakthroughs. And if you talk to me, like when I dropped out, like before dropping out, and me right now, I'm a totally different person. And also like touching back to like what you said earlier about books. When I was in college, I read a maximum of 3 books my entire school path. For more than 10 years, I read 3 books only. And I only passed because I asked my friends to give me their summaries. I only read 3 books. And right now I read almost daily. I read so much and I learned so much. And when I was in college, it felt like I was fed this type of mentality. And once again, I don't blame them, because this is a cage where you accepted to be in and where you trust them to give 80% of your time to it. You know, you trust them. It's totally like not blaming them.
Yeah.
Like, you are fed this mentality where you accepted it, and like the owners are feeding you this mentality, this system, this structure. So like when I dropped out of college, like I had this this mentality, you know, I had this somewhat limiting mentality. But once I dropped out, like I remember what made me drop out, what made me consider even dropping out was that summer. I didn't really even consider dropping out. But right before going to school, that's when I considered dropping out. It's a long story, but like I'm going to try to make it a little bit shorter, but
go for it, man. Give us the full thing. I want to hear this. But also I think this is an important, like anecdotal story for people who are maybe listening or watching this, who are thinking like, maybe that is kind of where I'm at. I want to hear what his tipping point was. So dive into it, man.
So when I was in college, I was in a business administration course. And before that, 2 years before that, I was in science, like health science and stuff. I love science, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I just didn't really give like much of my time to it. And I barely studied. And I basically got like I'm not like sure that what the comparison is, but I got a very, 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 very low score. Like the GPA, I'm not sure like what the bottom GPA is, but like it's close to the bottom. And I got to that because I wanted to do YouTube full time and I wasn't passionate about that at all. And once I switched to business administration, I switched, just a little story. I was in science for 2 years, and then I switched because I got an offer for a job for a marketing artist. I was 19 years old. I studied science. Like I never studied business or like videos and stuff, but I just received an offer from this big company to join as a marketing artist. And I showed my dad and he was like, "What do you want?" Because he doesn't want me to drop out. And I'm like, "I want to change classes. I want to change programs." Okay. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, "Okay, you know what? Okay, fine, do it." And then I did. I went into business administration, and in those classes, I started like, it was, I don't like to say this, but it was pretty easy. So I'm like, well,
flex on it, man.
I learned most of it. I learned most of it from the internet already. Like all the gurus out there, I mean, you know, like Gary Vee and stuff. Like it's simple things, but my grades went right there, like on the top. And I was very, very, like I was top of classes in most classes, and it felt very, very easy to me. And what made me start considering dropping out, what was the tipping point, was I had a 4-hour marketing class. And in that 4-hour marketing class, it's 4 hours. 4 hours. And then I was like, you know what? I barely, it's like, it's, you know, like those YouTube videos where they teach you like the 5 things you need to do to be successful and whatnot. And in those 4 hours, like it's a 4-hour class every week. So let's say in 3 or 4 weeks in a month, I would learn basically one of these YouTube videos. Okay. So one of these YouTube videos is very, very concise, and it tells me like what exactly I need to do. And during those 4 weeks are those 4 or 5 little points in that YouTube video. So I'm like, and obviously like there's so much information to learn, and obviously like a YouTube video cannot really teach you everything because it's like a 10-minute video. But my point is, I learned so much in such a little time, and so little in 4 hours. Like, what is the best use of my time there? Like, honestly, what is the best use of my time? And I started reading my first book ever. I remember this. I started hearing about this Rich Dad Poor Dad thing. Like, what is this Rich Dad Poor Dad thing? Like, what is this book? People like won't stop talking about it. Then one day, for some reason, remember, I only read 3 books my entire life. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to order this book for some reason. I don't know why. I just wanted to order this book. I started reading this and I finished it in 2 days. Oh my word. It completely changed the way I view things. And I'm like, if I learned this much in 2 days, and then during that entire summer, I started reading more books. Like 4 Hour Work Week was the second book I read. And that summer, like when like the summer I dropped out, like the entire summer, I didn't really think of dropping out. But that entire summer, I read and started learning so much. I started digging and learning so much in 3 months. And I wasted so many hours every single week. And in one entire year, I learned less than I learned in 3 months. So that's when I started considering dropping out, because I was like, I remember like school was about to start in 3 weeks. And I was like, wait, if I'm learning this much, like I don't want to slow down my growth here. I don't want to slow down my education here. And I know that because, okay, so my entire life, I've always been like against school, against college and stuff, but I was pretty immature. I was pretty immature at that time. And I was like, you know, like that, like, I don't want to go to school. Like the school is like,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was that kid, but I never really truly believed it. And I also like, and fun fact, ever since I dropped out, I don't really have anything against school. I don't really have anything against college. I just don't think it's the right fit for me. I was very, very fast. I was in a momentum that entire summer. And then I was like, college is starting. So I know for a fact I'm going to be right here. It's going to slow down so much. So I'm like, is this the best fit for my life right now? Is it, if I learned this much in 3 months, is this like, I know that this is going to take me 3 years to learn in college, like in college pace. And obviously because the pace is slowed down for everyone, like for the general public to be there at the same time, you know, like it's the same thing as the ice cream shop, the vanilla and chocolate.
Yeah.
The pacing is vanilla and chocolate. If I want to be slowed down with the entire class and like have the teacher explain to every single person, do I want that? Or do I want to be at my own pace, at a faster pace, at a momentum when I learn so much in such little time? And I started thinking back about that 4-hour marketing class. I'm like, by the way, if my teacher somehow is listening to this, I absolutely loved your class. I found it very fun and easy and like very entertaining, but I don't want to waste 4 hours for that.
Yeah.
Like honestly speaking, in that 4-hour block, we spent 30 minutes chit-chatting and like the introduction to the class, like, hey, how's your week going? Let's talk to everyone.
Yeah.
30 minutes of that is for that. And 3 hours and a half of it can be compressed in 25 or 30 minutes.
Well, that's the thing, dude. It comes down to an efficiency standpoint. Is like, I think everybody, I love that you kind of touched on that like realization point that you had, because for a lot of people, that's the necessary part where you have on your own the realization that like, this isn't for me, maybe there's something better. And then you start looking for these options. So I think that's also kind of an issue where like, you know, if I think back to like high school, I don't know that I was necessarily looking for other options in the first place, because I didn't even know to look for these other options. I was like 2 levels down, you know, from that awakening standpoint.
Yeah.
And once you kind of realize that, like if that for you was, you know, you just decided to like read this book and that started the transition over to like, wait a second, there's a better way to do this. Then that's that. It's almost like, how do we create like a starter kit for people to figure out maybe there's another way. It's like, I wish there were a suggested reading or something to be like, maybe check this out, see what it does for you, and then decide if you want to like keep going this way or not. And that's super
interesting, because like when I think about it, I'm not sure if forcing people, like not really forcing or just suggesting people to get this would be helping them. I'm not sure.
That's exactly what I thought too. Cause then I'm like, well, you kind of can't force it on people.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you subliminally kind of like bring it up? Did you ever see the movie Focus with Will Smith?
I honestly, I don't really watch movies.
All good. All good. There's one part where they're like, it's all like gambling and their odds are like insane. And the bet that he's doing is like mind blowing. But he explains like why it worked. And the whole thing is there's like throughout the day and the week leading up to that moment, they had been like subliminally suggesting things to the person that's involved in it. So that by the time that he had to make the choice, he's like, of course he's going to pick this number. We've been planning it to him all week. And it's like, how do we do that to like kids to be like, hey, like maybe read this book, maybe like check this out.
That's so
not just forcing it onto them.
Honestly, I don't really know. Like, cause like circling back to what you said earlier, like if you suggest people like to read this, like if you force people to read books, there's a high chance that most of them are not going to like it, which means that they're not going to really think about reading books, like I was very lucky to have my Amazon account open at that time. And for some reason, just kept hearing about Rich Dad Poor Dad, just bought it. I believe like in my life, at least, what helped me is the fact that no one told me to do it. It's like, it's so hard to like, to get it in people's mind, like here, like super subtly. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know. Like
it's kind of like that thing where people say like, you need to hit rock bottom to like bounce up or to realize that that's the bottom, kind of to give yourself perspective. And it's like, is there a way to lessen that for people? Like, I don't know. I think sometimes you need to just like be pushed to the point, like the breaking point almost, to realize that what you want is not that direction. It's the other direction. And maybe that's just part of human nature, is like learning things by realizing what you don't want and then moving another direction.
That's so good. I remember because like I know a few days ago when you asked me the question in that YouTube comment, I think like I remember I told you, I don't remember like correctly what the question was, but I know that
bring it up real quick.
Yeah, I know that one thing that motivated me to drop out was the fact that I really, 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 really did not like being forced to like do homework and study science stuff. I love science, but I'm not super passionate about it. And the fact that I was so pressured to do that made me want to do something else. And I started to grow here, like, and that's something else in that passion path. And because I was so pressured here, I really wanted to escape that and just really wanted to go out there and learn by myself. And I think like you're totally right. Like people need to be pushed in somewhere. Like people need to hit like a certain bottom for them to realize that they want to do something else.
Yeah.
Religiously said. Dude,
I think back to, I can picture a specific moment. I don't remember the time of year or anything. I just remember sitting in a classroom and it was a marketing class, and a marketing class in college. So it's like, you're definitely not learning the newest stuff. You're learning like principles and everything. And I'm hardly tuned in because at the time I was working with a band from my area. Because this really, the thing that like led me to take time away from college is like, I want to go try and make it in music business. And I know I'm not going to do it here. So, but at the time before that, before I had considered really like taking that time off, like kind of like you said, where you were at, I was in school and trying to figure out best ways to like market different things that the band was doing. So every day I was coming up with new stuff, not because it was told that I needed to. I was taking the time in my classes where they're like talking about these things and like writing out ideas and like figuring out things, like sketching out different stuff. And so I'm sitting there and I remember having this binder open that was a project for another class, which was a cool thing. It was like an entrepreneurship type class, which again, is that really like a thing,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there writing all this stuff out and I'm just like, this is so much more interesting to me than what's being talked about right here. But it still applies. It's still something in the real world. And I think that was kind of like the tipping point for me too, where I was like, there's so much else out there to learn that isn't right here. And I can learn it way quicker and by actually doing it.
Yeah. When you say that, like I'm starting to question, like I know it might sound stupid, but I'm starting to question because, probably teachers know that their 1 hour class can be done in 30 minutes. A lot of teachers probably know that. Like when you teach something like I don't remember the exact name of the law. Like if you give yourself 2 hours, you're going to do the work in 2 hours. If you give yourself 30 minutes, you're going to do the work in 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure a lot of teachers are conscious that their classes can be like done in half the time. So I'm starting to think like, no, well, this might be stupid. No, maybe like this is my not like that could be very cool theory, but like, what if school made it so that it wastes a lot of your time, so that you can, I don't know how to say it. It's like,
do your best, because I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, it's like, can we use the most of people's time so that they get bored in some way, so that they get to discover their passion through it? It's like, let's say like, it's like the mentality that like you want to bore someone else so much, like you want not necessarily want them to hit bottom, but like you want to give them a certain piece of information. And for people that are comfortable with that, that's totally fine. Like go for it. And for people who do not like that, they will see through it, like they will struggle through it and make them want to pursue their passion even more.
I like that, because that is the optimist in me, being like, they knew what they were doing. They knew that the real lesson wasn't the lesson in the class. I like how hopeful that is. I don't know if that's
hopefully that's the case
built into the structure, but you know what? I think that's in all seriousness. I think that is a lesson that can be taken away, is like to loop all the way back, and then we'll move forward, to loop all the way back when you said, like, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, stay in school. It's like, stay in school long enough to realize that you absolutely don't want to do that, and then pursue something else. It all is part of one system here.
Exactly, man.
I love it. Let's see real quick. I brought up that comment, by the way, and the original question was, if you went to college, do you regret it? And you said, I don't regret it, but you wouldn't have gone if you had the choice. And you talked about a lot of what we brought up here. And then the follow-up was like, what life lessons did you learn from those 2 years kind of in school? And you said, you mentioned this earlier too, like the win or learn. So you said that, I hadn't seen this comment until just now. You said those 2 years feel like it didn't even happen at all. They just passed by.
That feels so weird.
And your life lesson was like, keep doing what sucks, because, dude, how relevant is this? Keep doing what sucks, because in there you will find what you truly want to do.
Dude, that's exactly what we're talking about right now.
Dude, at least we know you're consistent.
That's cool.
That sums it up, man. That's such a good way to put it. But to kind of shift that forward, though, like, we've talked a lot about school, our qualms with it, what the benefits are of going through it. I want to shift it into now, like, you are running your business. Like that's your thing. And you're doing that to kind of stoke the flame of YouTube, so that you have the time and resources to be able to do that also. So give me the scoop on that, man. Like, what types of projects are you doing now with video and the business? And like, how did you fall into that after figuring out like maybe there's another way other than college? Moving a little more into the present here now.
Yeah. Moving more into, so for people who do not really know what I do, in my 9 to 5, like aside from college, like I still get educated. So for my 9 to 5, what I do is I have my video business, in which like David is a colleague and stuff. Like we all have our video businesses. I have a video business for my 9 to 5, and right after the 9 to 5, like right after 5, what I do for the rest of the day until I go to sleep, aside from like spending time with the family, what I do for the rest of the day is I try to grind my YouTube. And obviously I don't really like the grind and hustle and stuff. Like I don't really like that word, but I try to grow this YouTube channel, because YouTube for me, like, if you don't know me, in 2015, YouTube was the thing that got me into videos in the first place, because I was a really insecure kid. I was a really not talkative kid. I didn't really have that many friends. But when I did start making YouTube videos, and one video blew up on Reddit, and one video blew up on Twitter and stuff, and people
117 viewers on the live stream, right?
I've seen like yeah.
I watched your video yesterday, I think. Nice.
Like I remember seeing articles about it, and that totally changed my life, honestly. Like I know it's like it might could come across like as a hyperbole, but like that really changed everything for me. And that's when I started loving YouTube so much. And right now what I'm doing with my business is I'm trying to help entrepreneurs like in my area, like have the same effect as me, have the same effect. Like you feel insecure, you feel unheard, and I try to help them with videos. So I do that in my 9 to 5. And for the rest of the day, I try to do YouTube until eventually at one point, YouTube is a lot more scalable. That like we're going to business stuff right now, but it's very, very scalable. So I'm using the power of video, like right now, like you're currently using also, David, like doing this little podcast episode.
If you're watching this, you're experiencing the power of video one way or another. So
exactly. It's 24/7 also. So I'm using the power of video to grow on YouTube. And then my goal is to eventually outgrow my business so that I can do YouTube full time and then use my time however I want. Because YouTube is really like documenting your life. And obviously it really depends on your niche. But
either way,
like you really document your life and you're really living, like doing what you want and having like making a living out of it. And I absolutely love it. I know that you, David, you also freaking love YouTube. And like, I'm curious, like what you like so much about it?
Oh man, the list goes on, but like, I mean, to start, I personally have learned so much from YouTube just in my like foundations of what I do now kind of were rooted in the platform. I mean, anybody watching this, I think anybody who has ever been on YouTube has probably searched like how to blank, how to do anything. It's one of the
video.
So, as very SEO friendly, right?
Heck yes.
I mean, that's like, it's one of the top 5 or top 3 like common search terms, or the beginning of a search term is how to blank. And so I love how accessible YouTube makes all different types of knowledge and experiences. And I don't just mean that in accessible, like, oh, it's online, so you can go get it. I mean, there are countless people on here who have different ways of structuring videos, of putting things together, of explaining things. And it's just, if you don't process information a certain way, I guarantee you there's another YouTube channel and another person who will explain it or put it across in a way that you're going to understand. And to me, that is awesome. YouTube is like I don't know if decentralized is the right word, but it's like a marketplace for knowledge where you can find it in any way that you personally need it.
It's so crazy because if you like, for the person like listening to this and watching this, if you want to get into YouTube, there's a lot of it that is SEO. YouTube is a lot about SEO, and obviously there's a whole lot of stuff like watch time, average view duration, but SEO is very, very important for YouTube. And like when people go on YouTube, it's like searching on Google, it's like the second most, I believe YouTube is the second most, like
it's the second biggest search engine owned by the first. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then like people, if you need something, you go on YouTube and you're going to find it. There's so many creators out there and there's so many people teaching. So it's basically like when circling back to college, it's like you could basically be a teacher at a college with a class of like 30, 40 students, or you could be a teacher on YouTube and teach hundreds or thousands and millions of people. It's so crazy. Like the scalability of this, I absolutely love it. And I love people like David who want to teach people out there on YouTube. So you're basically like a teacher, but you're a teacher for so many people out there. At the same time, it's crazy.
That's really the cool thing is like, because teaching is always something that has fascinated me. Like being able to make a direct impact in someone's life, like that's maybe not even measurable, but like noticeable. I think that's awesome. And it kind of was like a back burner thing with YouTube where it was almost like, hey, there's a lot of things that I know and a lot of things that I want to talk about that people are just happen to be interested in or want to know about. And so you kind of fall into this role of like teacher. And I think the coolest part is that you can do it in a way, not just that, that people resonate with, but like resonates most with you. So for me, this show, honestly, it started out as like, okay, I know I need to be making content. I know I need to be making videos talking about different things. But for me, it's like planning that out and then shooting them and editing them is like, it doesn't jive with me a whole 100%. Like I hate editing. So I was like, all right, well, I love talking about this stuff. So like, I'll just have conversations and then I'll put the information out there that way. Cause for me, that's how I learn things. That's how I like getting thoughts out and all that different type of stuff. So I was like, cool, I'll do it that way. And there's other videos in the mix too that I make, but that's what resonated with me. There's other people who will do like here's the top 5 things that you need to know about this. There's other people who will do like a full on case study of something and break down different points. And it's just like, no matter how you want to get your point out there will be an audience for it.
Oh, of course. Heck yes. And by the way, I also want to remind people that are watching this or are listening to this, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe to the Dave Lisowski YouTube channel.
Doing my job for me.
If you're listening to this on Spotify or Anchor or wherever you're listening from, please subscribe to him, follow him. He's the beast. He's
also,
very, very good.
Do the same for Thien because he is doing pretty awesome stuff here too. I have to give it to him. He's got, if you are into, what do we say your niches were? It's a productivity, self-help, college, and faith. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So if that's what you fall into, go plug over there, go subscribe because he's got some awesome stuff. Go check it out and listen in too. But like,
thank you,
dude, I think that's kind of a cool like pivot point there is realistically people who are listening to this right now, I'm expecting are maybe if they're still listening at this point, they have kind of maybe gone through a similar situation or similar situations as we have with college and moving into like a creative type of business. And maybe if they're still here, they're considering, I should jump onto YouTube. So in your experience, man, with the people that you're working with and your own stuff, like what are some of the, I guess, biggest, like most underutilized opportunities that people getting onto the platform now are not doing that they should be doing?
So like what people are doing on the platform that are a little bit like more lacking or like
yeah like say someone watching this is like, oh, great, I'm gonna go start a YouTube channel, like right after this. The biggest things that they should be doing, because a lot of people that are already on the platform aren't doing it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's like, that goes into YouTube strategy there.
A little bit. Flex your muscles here. Show your expertise a little bit.
Number one, and everyone can agree with this, like Mr. Beast, Daryl Eves, like a lot of like the YouTube experts can agree with this. Number one, watch time. Make sure your watch time is very good. Number two, make sure that people stay, not watch time again. Number two is make sure that people click on your video. That's the number two. That's like the click-through rate, CTR. If you're watching this, CTR, click-through rate. That is basically your thumbnail and your title. Most of it comes from your thumbnail. And after that, there's your title. And also, number three, make searchable content. Make content that people can search. And if they cannot search, make sure that your video can get suggested on other people's videos. Okay, so let's say one thing you could do is, let's say someone is talking about dropping out and you don't, for some reason, you don't really want to do SEO for like, I dropped out of college 1 year ago. Was it worth it? Let's say you don't want to do that, but you want to be suggested to that specific video. So what you could do is you could make a video about dropping out and make it about your experience as a college dropout 1 year after. So like you get suggested right there, right after watching that video. So if you want to grow on YouTube, number one, focus on your watch time. Number two, focus on your CTR, click-through rate, on like if people click on your videos. And number three, make sure that people can search your videos. That's pretty much it.
I wanna touch on number one? Because I mean, technically, if anybody wanted to like dive deeper into those, they could use YouTube and find some answers, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like the trickiest one for people is the watch time. You know, it's like, there's noticeable things that you can tweak with like a thumbnail or a title, that there's data that says if you do this, you'll probably increase. Yep. And with the searchable stuff too. But with watch time, it's a little more of like an art than a science. So what are some things that you've noticed that like have some actionable tips that have helped people's watch time increase, or your own watch time increase?
Mm-hmm. You've probably noticed this, you, David, or I in my own life, or you watching or listening to this. You've maybe watched a vlog where that person starts talking about like they're setting up their camera, like, should I? Okay, this is not the right angle, and then like they spend 10 seconds to like go around and just be like, oh, geez, my hair is not right. Like, I know it's entertaining. I know a lot of people do it they do it on purpose. You know, like you edit the video right after, so like you put it there on purpose. But watch time right there. What happens is that in most videos, at least like most videos in most small channels, like in the vast majority of small channels, look at their watch time. It goes down like 50% in the first 10 seconds. And that you basically lose, instead of focusing on the rest, obviously focus on the rest, but put 80% of your time in that intro to make sure that it's all good. Okay. And how do you do that? When people click on your videos, okay, when people click a title or a thumbnail, and your click-through rate is going up if people click on your video. When they click, what's going to make them stay in the intro is, are you giving them the right, the answer to their expectation? It's all about expectation. When someone clicks on your videos, they have a certain expectation. Let's say I have so I'm stalking Dave Lisowski here. I am subscribed, but there's a video of him like how to grow your business on TikTok. Okay. So in the first few seconds, I should know, in the first 10, 15 seconds, I should know if this is the right spot for me. Yes or no. And if it's not the right spot, 50% of your audience is gone. And it doesn't really matter what the rest of your video is if 50% of your audience is gone. You know, let's say 50% is there after the 15 seconds, and at the end there's 30% people left. Okay, so we lost 20% people on the road there, and that's okay. That's very, very good. That's actually very, very good for a channel that is like less than 100K. That's very, very, very good. Okay, so you go from 50% of people to did I say 30 or 20%?
You go to 30% after the 50%.
You go to 30%. So you lost 20% there. That's okay. Focus on that. But the number one priority, make sure that your intro is good. Make sure that your intro is good, because you're losing 50% of people. It's crazy. 50% of people. It doesn't matter if you lose 20% during the entire video, because what matters is that 50% of people. Make sure that your title is the right thing for your intro. Make sure that it all fits and it all sinks in together. That's like one thing that is so important. And also the outro. If you watch the outro, okay, so here, if you're watching the video, you're lucky. If you're listening to this, I'm going to try to illustrate this in your mind. But if you go to the graph, there's a graph here for your watch time. In the first 10, 15 seconds, it goes down 50%. This is like for the average channel, okay? For the average channel that doesn't really study YouTube that much and stuff, like that's totally fine. You lose 50% in the beginning, and then it goes down over time. And then once the outro hits, for the last 30 seconds or 1 minute of the outro, thank you for watching, etc., you'll see your watch time go to like 5%. It goes down super fast, like a roller coaster. Then it slows down. And then at the end, once people hear about your outro, thank you for watching, it drops dramatically. So like cut your outros. Well, not necessarily cut your outros, but make sure that people don't know that they're in the outro. That's a key there. And then you want to loop them to the next video before they even know it. So your outro, instead of being an outro like thank you for watching, should be about inviting people to another video so that it hooks them into another video, and then it loops them into staying to YouTube, because that's what YouTube cares about. YouTube only cares about if people watch your video, watch time. If people click on your video, click the rate, and if people stay on YouTube, that's how they get money. That's how like YouTube grows as a business. It's like in the intro, make sure that you set the right expectation and that you tell people exactly what they're getting out of it in the first 10, 15 seconds. And I know that's super cheesy and I know that a lot of people say it, but it's so important. You lose 50% of your audience through that. 50% of your audience.
It's almost funny because I think people who hear that will and didn't know before or weren't made aware of it before will begin to notice that in their own watch habits, because it's so easy to be tuned in once you know like, oh yeah, that's why I do that. I do click out once I hear the thank you, because like, what's the point of watching the rest of the video at that point? Or it's like, yeah, if the title doesn't really match, like if I don't know that I'm getting what the title is talking about in the first like 10, 15 seconds, it's like, hell yeah, I'm clicking out, So,
Yeah,
so I think people will be able to pick up on that even more once they're in tune with it. And then, it's a whole nother thing to be able to like actively employ those different strategies because it's a lot to think about if you're not doing it at all right away. Hell, I still actively like work to tweak things and like, hone in more. And I think it's a different kind of ballgame too when you're doing like a super long form type of thing like this. Yeah. But with some of the shorter videos that I break out that are like kind of segmented from this, it's like, hey, okay, maybe we talked about in a specific part of this, we talked about like learning, learning about why college might not be for you on your own. Like, okay, maybe that's a specific thing rather than just cutting that, kind of like Joe Rogan clips does. Like,
yep.
Throw an intro in there, like a quick kind of explanation of like, hey, here's what you're getting here. Yes. Here's what this is. Here's what you can expect that like ties back to the title. It's little things that you can almost kind of like templatize or systematize in your own head. It's like, if you know, okay, here's the format, it makes it a lot easier to like continuously do it and continuously talk about it.
For sure. And I know like, and if you're watching this or viewing this, like one person to really study that does this very, very, very well is Mr. Beast. I know his content is not like the most like mature, like it's not, it doesn't really fit everyone, right? But it fits like the general public, and it's very, very everyone friendly, all age friendly. Analyze what he does in all of his videos. I can bet you in less than 10 seconds, in most cases like in 3 or 5 seconds, he already tells you what exactly you're getting, and he's getting right into the video in the first 3 to 5 seconds. It's crazy. Watch what he does and analyze what he does. Like he's so good at what he does.
Yeah, dude, it's funny when I see like 18-second intros. I'm like, who do you think watches this? Like, I think it's I think a lot of the times it's like an ego thing. It's like, here's my flashy looking intro with a bunch of like photos and clips of me doing stuff. I'm like, that's cool, but nobody's here for that. Nobody's here to see, like, use that for your intro when you're doing a speaking engagement or something, like that was something I thought about a lot with the show. Is like, okay, I'll do an intro for branding purposes. Like, we're going to keep it like 4 seconds. Like there's no need for anything longer than that. And a lot of people I still see doing that. Or if you're going to put an intro, like put a hook beforehand, like let people know, like, here's what you're getting here. Or a lot of the times, like with Sunny Leonard does he, who I mentioned before we hopped on, she'll for a period of time, she was doing like, she'll take a snippet of the video like that pops up later, that's like a hook, and she'll put it right before, and she'll have it like grayed out so it's going to come up later. And then right before she says like the great part, it cuts to like the brief intro and then her actual video. I'm like, you got me.
And actually getting back to that, like what you just said, that's so good, because I know like when you watch a YouTube video, one other tip to increase your watch time, okay, like to keep people watching your videos is, I know it sounds weird to say it like this, but like you have to plug a hole in people's mind. When they watch a video, number one, make sure that their expectation is met. Number two, plug a hole in their mind when their expectation is met, plug a hole, and then they can only fill up this hole if they watch your entire video. And during this entire video, if they get bored, plug a lot of little holes there, here and there, but plug one big hole, like one big mission, so that people are into that little mission and want to fill that hole. And during the entire time, like there's small little holes, like small little stories in that big story. That's how you keep people interested in, like, make sure that every single second, every single frame, people are entertained or people still want to watch. Because this is something I learned from Logan Paul's editor. I know Logan Paul is like a little bit controversial and stuff, but like his editor is very excellent, very, very, very good at what he does. And I've taken his master's classes and stuff, but he talks about this one little thing. It's like every single second, every person watching reconsiders if they should be watching your video, yes or no. When you click on the YouTube channel, let's say Dave Lisowski, let's plug him once more. There's a whole lot of videos. Should you click this video? Is this video going to give you the best ROI for this, the best value for your time? Or is clicking the other video where how to start a business as a young entrepreneur? Like, which video are you going to click on? And when you watch that how to grow your business on TikTok video, every single second, you see on the right side, on the top, there's a watch later, or like your playlist. There's so many things out there, so many distractions. And every single second, someone reconsiders if they should stay watching your video, yes or no. So you want to plug a hole in their mind and make sure that they stay till the end. Obviously, you want to do that like to be a good person and stuff, like just help them, like genuinely give value. Because like if you don't, like that's wrong. I mean, you want to plug a hole in their mind, keep them watching till the end. And also every single second, make sure that it leads towards filling that hole. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
I think you nailed it. It sums it all up. I mean, that's why it all loops back to the ROI of your time. It's like,
yeah,
whether it's college or books or YouTube, whatever you're doing to learn something, it's like, where are you going to spend your time best to process that information quickly, or in the best way for you, and that's really the bottom line. It's like you said, we've only got a certain amount of time, and if you're someone who's trying to get stuff done, trying to progress and do it quickly, it's like you're going to look for the most efficient way to do it. So
heck yes,
I think that's like the key takeaway from everything here is, if you're trying to get busy living, figure out what's the quickest way for you.
Make sure the watch time is good. If you want to grow on YouTube, make sure the watch time is good. That's pretty much it. That's the entire episode here. Make sure your watch time is good.
Boom. Mic drop right there. So there you have it. What I want to ask you now is, do you think that college is really the best way to learn? Having this conversation really reminded me of the parts of college that I actually really liked. I had some awesome professors with great world experience and life insight. But it also reminded me of all the parts of college that I just felt were flawed for the way that I was trying to do things. There's a few important takeaways from this, and one of them is that if you don't know necessarily what it is that you want to do, having a structure that sort of forces you into that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Ultimately, you're never going to learn the things that you really love to do and that you're passionate about until you learn the stuff that you absolutely hate to do. And if you do know what you do, just want to remember that you're going to be spending time learning something one way or another. And if you can learn it quicker than what college does for you, why wouldn't you want to go that route? Of course, YouTube rocks, and you will always be able to learn more than you could ever imagine here. So just take that into consideration too. There's actually a couple other conversations I've had on earlier episodes of How to Win with Video that kind of complement this one nicely. And that's episode 2 with Siebes, talking about failures and moving forward from those and entrepreneurship. And episode 8 with Josh Farley, talking about starting a business and multiple businesses as a young entrepreneur and maybe not going the college route. So I'm going to make sure to link those in the description. If you watch this because you're thinking about dropping out of college, I want to hear what stuck out to you the most and what maybe helped sway your decision one way or the other. So leave a comment below and I'm going to make sure to loop back in on all of those. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the thumbs up and also subscribe, because I've got a lot more conversations like this one coming up soon. I talk about this stuff a lot and also general video strategy on my socials. So go connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm David Lisowski over there. there. And also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at EntrepreneurBra. That's all I got for this one. So if you haven't yet, go check out the episode before this. Make sure to stay tuned for the next one. And in the meantime, drink lots of water, be nice to people, and keep on winning with video.